All right, folks, welcome on back here this Thursday afternoon, this October 6th, October 7th. Geez, living in the past there for the past day. Great to see all of us live in Cybergroup, all of us on social media, Facebook Live and YouTube. Welcome on back here for our afternoon meeting. So without further ado, let's hop right into the thick of things. Not because we have class this afternoon, not because, we're going to be talking about Bitcoin. That's Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Because there's not really a whole lot to talk about. It's been a drag of a day, folks. A drag of at least the late morning heading into the early afternoon. Market open treated us pretty nicely. So, what we'll do just to kind of make things more efficient, we'll go right from top to bottom. But hey, we can kind of take our time today. We'll recap those that ended up making a big move, perhaps. But actually, we'll start off on the AEHR on the screen here, at least up 18+%. Would have found this on the gainer side, of course, number 5. This stock is a familiar name to a lot of us live inside Cybergroup. We ended up trading this stock going back like a couple weeks ago, a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, as I like to say typically, but ended up making this big gap up overnight, ended up breaking all-time highs that day. It was a phenomenal run up and then dumped back down. Well, this stock was actually shortable back a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. So for as much money as we made and for all the call outs that we made on the way up, well, we watched it drop off and tank the following 2 days after. And, it was a great day trade for us. So for right now, we'll put this stock, the AEHR, right on our afternoon watch list to begin. All right, knocking my pen over there. Let's just jump right from the top of the gainer side. We'll go through. I'll tell you what, CEI is, of course, one of the stocks that ended up doing pretty nicely for us this morning. So let's talk about the run up. This was pretty unsuspecting. I wasn't really expecting this, rather, I should say, for it to at least be this clean. So it ended up popping right out the gate. It took a little consolidation period where shortly prior to 10 a.m., it ended up beginning to kind of peak and pull back. But then heading into the late morning, where you normally wouldn't expect as clean of a run up, perhaps, but ended up making a really nice squeeze. Ended up, of course, breaking above the resistance off of 140, really 135, a major iceberg order at that price. So once it broke that price, 135, that's where it really started its run. Ran all the way up towards the high of the day off 188. Right now, though, I mean, hey, this stock, as volatile as it is, and I say that in a good way. I mean, just given how liquid the order book is, the stocks come off of like so much news the last couple of days. I feel like there's a more likely chance now for the rest of the day that it'll be more exhausted. I'll come back to it at the end. I would have zero issue putting this on the main list. I just want to kind of cherry pick others and see if there's anything that's looking a lot better here, for this close. So the MRUS trade will keep going through. This one has really thin liquidity on the book. I'm not too much of a fan of this. Now, also a familiar name, though, this PALT stock. A bunch of us were calling this out just earlier. We ended up calling out the pop and the squeeze earlier in the morning, ended up getting halted on the way up. Reopened up a lot higher, but then, of course, as you could see, it ended up pulling back down. The volume totally died off, and you'll always hear me say this, folks, because volume does, have a correlation with volatility and momentum. So it's to say that when the volume dies off for a stock that already made a big move, typically, so does the stock. It dies off. So ends up pulling back, ended up bottoming out a little bit under 850. And, I guess for right now, it's making that second mini move back up, that second, win type of run up here. I'll put it on our list because I feel like we're kind of like going to be really thin here on our watch list going into the close. So I don't mind putting this one on for right now. We are pretty familiar with it. It has a little bit of a jumpy spread, so be careful about the tier size here on level 3 and level 2. So keep it going. AEHR, of course, we talked about already. The all-time high, really quick, I didn't mention that. The all-time high, at least back from a week and a half ago, was 1675. I typed that inside the chat board, inside Cybergroup, but for all of us on social media, you're joining us during this meeting, I didn't say that. So, 1675 is the all-time high on this AEHR trade. 1650 would be an assumed resistance first, though, just given there's likely going to be an iceberg order there first. Just where we would want to see a stock here going into this time of the day, the SLCA at the highs, beautiful trend. It's just like trading really thin volume per minute right now. Not on the order book, but, low volume traded per minute. Just looking at that indicator there, that number in white here on my screen. PED, I'll tell you, thankfully I didn't jump into this. And it just goes to show that experience will pay off in the sense. Going into late morning, you would normally expect a reversal anyway, but with the stock holding near the highs like the PED trade was, hey, I was hoping to see, the type of rally and trend like we had on the SLCA trade just a moment ago here. So I was thinking about jumping in right off at 2. And I don't know the exact time. I think it was after this pop here. So it could have just been moments before the crash. I took my eyes off it. I pulled my order and I said, that's it. I'm going to move on to another stock. It doesn't really seem like it's going to make that pop. And nonetheless, well, it made a big move, just the complete, other way. All right, kind of familiar name, AMPY, ended up making this big drop-off back earlier in the week, back on Monday, of course, ended up making a nice dead cat bounce, and then for what it's worth, ended up making a second squeeze here going into the mid to late morning, topped off right around 355, and then pulled back. Hey, it's shortable today. It actually wasn't yesterday, and I think it was the day before, maybe, I'm not sure. Yesterday it was not. Back on Monday it was, and we were thinking about a potential short maybe after the initial run up, and then it ended up continuing. So you got to close that trade out before it continues to pump. But nonetheless, here today, at least it is shortable. It ended up dropping off from 355, 357. Right now, not a whole lot really happening here. So maybe keep this stock in mind, like on your side list for tomorrow and for next week, maybe. But see if there's anything looking better. Not YSG. All right, let's skim it through. Let's see what else we got here on the gainers side. Market's up today, but very flat, and kind of goes to show like really how we've been following this afternoon. This is a pretty good representation, just seeing the SPY just as flat as it was. And, I guess right now trying to pull back a little bit here. All right, so the GROM stock we ended up doing pretty nicely on as well. This and the CEI were like the two main movers that we ended up catching in the morning. I'll tell you what, that CEI trade, just so you folks know, DM here, one of our trial members says it's running right now. It's not running. Let's redefine the word running, right? It's more of like a little brisk walk. We'll talk about it. We'll jump to it, actually, the CEI trade. From the corner of my eye on my level 4 screen, I have it up, and little wiggle up, little pop up here. So you know what? I said I would come back to this stock at the end of this meeting. So you know what? This might just be enough for me to put this on the main list here for right now, the CEI. All right, so let's go back to Grom. We had the Grom trade, DATS, IQ maybe. We'll check that out perhaps. But yeah, Grom, we ended up doing pretty nicely on this stock earlier today. I mean, we did pretty nicely yesterday on it, but continued this morning. Took a little while to get the gears going, but once it broke above resistance off of 465, 470-ish, you can see there it just lifted off. So, really simple trade, really easy trade on that one. I ended up missing the first, brunt of the move up. I ended up jumping in off of 5 just a bit later on. It was pretty choppy around there, but I guess it was like right place, right time. I was pretty fortunate where once this ended up breaking, where was it, 5 or 6? It was 5. It was 5 right here. Once it ended up beginning to re-break over 5, I left a lot of money on the table. Ended up jumping in from 5 out at 525. I mean, simple trade, but ended up leaving a lot on the table. Pushed all the way up towards 635, over $1 higher, and right now the stock just on the way back down here. So not a whole lot happening right now for Grom, but great trade from earlier today. And definitely keep it in mind for tomorrow. Keep it in mind for next week. This will easily be on my side list at least. All right, so the IQ trade's pretty flat here. All right, so we'll hop over to the loser side, seeing if there's anything just as good, if not better, over there. But I'll tell you right now, just to be very upfront with you folks, I told you yesterday was my 7-year Annie here at CTU, and you've been here long enough, you know the deal. All of these stocks are hard to borrow. I mean, granted, it's not impossible to borrow, but it's hard to borrow. We normally can't get the shares to short these stocks that are down, 33%, 35%, 39%, unless if they're beginning to make a dead cat bounce for maybe the first couple here I'll just look at. But, you figure otherwise, they're just going to be washed up. OSMT, PRLD here. It's just crap out there on the loser side. See if there's any other stocks that are at least shortable on my platform. That'll at least look at. Nothing really that like catches my eye as far as like a name, as far as a ticker, as far as like, volume getting filled. FLXN shortable, but 455,000 shares traded today. That's nothing. All right, so folks, the CEI trade we put on our list already. I guess we'll jump back. What was the other one that we had on our side list there? I think CEI may have been the only one. Folks, hey, if there's anything up, down, left, right that you would want me to look at, check out pretty quickly here. We're in a flat market. Not a whole lot has really happened over the last, really a couple hours. So, if there's anything that we completely missed or is making a move right now, let me know. Yeah, PALT, AEHR, and CEI now on the main watch list so far. I mean, this BTBT, I love this stock. I would love to see it pop and run. Obviously, Bitcoin mining stock. So if Bitcoin makes another pop, perhaps that can go with it. But I mean, from the run up yesterday that we had on this stock to this, to go from yesterday to this, that's such a disappointment. It really is. So, hey, this is still going to be on my side list tomorrow morning. At least I'll check it out tomorrow morning. If Bitcoin makes another pop and this goes, then, I'll be trading it. But it was unfortunate that this didn't really make any sort of good move for us so far. Hopefully I eat my words, heading into the next hour and 19 minutes, but I wouldn't expect it. How about REI from Lewis, one of our trial members joining us today? I'll tell you what, it's up 11+%. It has a tight spread. It's a $3, stock. All of that lines up really well. Trading about 4,000 shares per minute, but I'll tell you that number is also factoring in these big spikes. So, prior to that, they're trading about 5,700 shares a minute, which is actually more than this. I don't know. All right, so I'll tell you, it's near the highs. Doesn't seem like it's going to be too volatile of a stock in a bad way, meaning, I don't think that this stock is going to make some 20-cent drop off within a blink of an eye. Not bad. All right, so just don't get this confused with CEI, folks. For all of us with traders dyslexia like me and Fausto, I'll make sure to separate CEI from REI. And I'm serious when I say that. So you might think I'm like joking about that, but you don't want to jump into the wrong trade. That's all. All right, so folks, I'll tell you what, jumping over to Benzinga Pro here on my other screen. Well, I'll show you right now. I don't mind just bringing it up here really fast, but it's like as if like time stood still. Nothing's really happening on my Benzinga Pro feed. ELMS, I'll look at that one perhaps, but all these are stocks that are at the highs of the day right now, and maybe AHPI at 232. That was at HOD, and that's a familiar name. I'll look at it. If the chart's crap, then I'll just pass on it. There you go. All right. ELMS, this one is up 6%, trading 520,000 shares, just more of a spread and thinner volume out there in the book compared to even that REI that Lewis called out. So I'm going to pass on this, and I'll tell you what, folks, I don't really see much else. Not to sound lazy, but I'm going to call it. All right, so hey, if there is anything else, we'll start and stick with this list. I just ran through the whole thing. So, I wouldn't try and go off on your own and force something out there. And, unless if it's really popping, really running, like, hey, CEI, that was worthy of being called out. That made the watch list. The REI trade, hopefully, with where it's at right now, will gain more momentum. So I would start and stick with this list, the AEHR, the PALT trades included, but otherwise at 3 o'clock Eastern time, once Rich is back on the mic, I'll be back on at 3:30 Eastern. If there's anything else otherwise, then we'll rescan a lot more seriously at that point, I always like to say. All right, so for all of us joining us on Facebook Live, YouTube, I appreciate you each and every day, each and every afternoon. If you're ready to join us live inside our trading room, feel more than free to do so by going right down to the link on the banner below. For all of us there right now, all of our trial members like Lewis and DM joining us here today, and all of our new students like Dan and otherwise, all of our returning students like Kathleen, Leda, Renzo, Chuck, Wendy, Patrick, and all of us otherwise. I look forward to speaking to you folks coming up pretty shortly. Take care.